meeting of the Escondido Library Board of Trustees. Serena, do we have any public comment or? Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Okay. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Does anyone have any additions or changes? Okay, great. I just need someone to motion and second. Okay. All in favor of approving last month's minutes? Aye. Great. Okay. So current business, announcement of new trustees. So I believe that our new trustees are Frances Bona. Am I saying that right? Bova, sorry. Frances Bova, and then Maribel Reyes Cruz. Does she go by Cruz Reyes or Reyes Cruz? Okay, I think she hyphenated her name after she had her baby. Anyway, okay, great. Let's see. So next then is discussion over the collection development budget. When are we going to do the oath of office?
We can do it after like Treasurer finishes on the document. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll wait for Sarah to send me the official one.
Okay.
Oh, to swear. Okay. Let me have it come down.
Okay.
Can you do me a favor and come down and swear in somebody? Yeah, it's the new. Okay.
I feel maybe we should put that on the agenda for next month, just because I don't think we can talk or vote on it now. I don't have a problem with discussing it.
Yeah, I can just.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right now, I'm going to swear in Frances, who's one of the new commissioners. Okay, I'm just going to like pull it up. No, Zach says it's okay. He doesn't have to. He just is going to repeat. He doesn't know if he's really have to sign.
Carolyn,
Yeah, so it's
loud.
loud.
Just a reminder that next month we do have a special meeting and it is at 6 p.m.
No, just video.
later in July. I think it's on here, but
Swearing in before this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Awesome. Bye. Yeah, sorry, she was just sending it to me and they thought that they were coming down. And guys, you don't have to sign anything, we're just gonna do it right. So she's just sending me the. Official words.
Yeah. So it's my favorite part. I love it. I love taking the oath. It's great.
The swearing.
It's super fun.
No.
put you on the spot. What are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Good.
So,
Here to watch the first.
I know just to repeat after me, I
The support is
solemnly swear
good for them to become part of it.
that I will support
How old are they?
Bruce 8, and then Frankie is 6.
Same with mine. My
Okay.
son just turned 8. My daughter will be 6 in August.
Okay, yeah, Frankie just turned 6 last
against
month.
all enemies,
Wow.
They just finished kindergarten and 2nd grade.
Yep. Same.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
It's fun.
And how a third and a first grader.
I know, it's crazy.
and the Constitution of the State of
I
California,
remember first grade.
Right.
that I take this obligation freely
Where's, can you get up, please?
without any
I don't
reservation
know how I feel about my baby being a first grader.
or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. Okay, moving on to the collection and development budget.
Okay, so the collection development follows the city's fiscal year, which is July through June. So we're coming up to our next fiscal year. Our collection HQ gave us a really awesome breakdown that showed us the the budget we had for this year, and the percentage based on the percentage in each collection and what was circulating. So they gave us some great statistics with which to create the budget for 23-24. So where on the right-hand side, you're gonna see it says proposed budget, and then you can kind of see why the percentages were made that way. We have determined that we want to adopt this budget because it does accurately reflect what's being circulated and how our community is using our collection.
Okay, Katie, what's the yellow highlight mean?
The yellow highlighted was showing us where they definitely had adjusted some things based on what we had initially had in those pots and where the biggest changes were, I believe. So, for example, if you look at children's board books, in this year, you'll see it was $436 was allocated, but based on the estimated number of volumes, current circulation, that was upped to $1,800 to better reflect how many of those are circulating and checking out. So those yellow ones were kind of the big ticket items that were changed in a big way.
Yeah, go.
All right, first question. I see that in the database part, Bibliotheca is no longer, just any explanation there?
Absolutely, good question. So we took a long, hard look at all of our resources that we pay annual subscription fees for, especially our digital resources. So you'll see later on in the statistics what percentage of our collection is digital circulation versus print or media. And at this, during COVID, we had Overdrive or Libby was our main digital resource provider. We had some one-time emergency grant funds that were given to us in 2020 because people couldn't physically come to the building. So we then used that funding to get on board with Bibliotheca, which is Cloud Libraries, their platform, because they were waiving their platform fees for that first year. And by opting into CloudLink, we were able to basically do digital interlibrary loans for other people in the geographic area. And so it gave our patrons a much bigger pool of items digitally to draw from. Over the past 3 years, we've had Bibliotheca, we've had Biblio Board, which is a local indie author platform as well. And we've also had Hoopla. Those were the ones we added during COVID. And so when our renewals came up this year, we took a look at our circulation over the last 3 years. Hoopla has done very, very well, and we are happy to continue putting the $26,000 a year into that pot because it gets used, people love it, it gives a lot more access to audiobooks. But Cloud Library was it was less than a third of all of our circ. And so our staff thought it would be better used putting that money into Libby and Overdrive. So we've kind of redistributed a little bit based on some of these other ones, like you see the board books and some of our nonfiction, but we did put more money into our Overdrive so that we'll have still a lot more ebooks, but on a platform more of our patrons are using.
Nice, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Katie, the overall expenditure for databases, though, is down about 12%.
So $6,000 was our Biblio board, which was our local author digital books. That one is also, we're not continuing. So $6,000 plus the $2,500 we had to pay for the annual cloud library. We did have an increase. So our Chilton's EBSCO, which is our big suite of databases, and A to Z databases, I think, all went up slightly, so there's kind of that, it's a wash at some points, but those are the two main ones we stopped supporting. We also added in 2023 the book chat service onto our novelist, which is the Reader's Advisory live request service, which got rolled into EBSCO, so that one actually went up by about $1,200. So there's been kind of a little bit of ending and beginning.
Okay, well, I understand that dollars aren't necessarily directly related to what's going to be available, but that's a significant drop, and there was nothing else you could find that you wanted to add on?
No, we wanted to add more to our physical collections to accommodate where the circulation was happening.
Am I hearing relative use here?
Yes.
Okay.
So the relative use is what's being shown here in the spreadsheet.
Okay, and is that the increase in children's print from 25,000 to 34,000
Yes.
it's really significant?
Yes.
Is that also due to relative use?
That is definitely due to relative use. We've also done a lot more rearranging. So if you've been to our library, the upstairs where the children's is a bit static in that we can't really add shelving there or move shelving too much. So we've had to be creative in how we can accommodate new materials. Luckily, children check out a lot of books at one time, so we can kind of purchase a surplus because we know that things are constantly moving. But yes, so the relative use is primarily why we redirected some of that funding, and the fact that we now have a bit more space that we've been able to manage upstairs.
Okay. Thank you.
Virginia, anything from you? Okay. I do have just one question. So with the estimated number of volumes that you've listed here,
Mhm.
is this for specifically new material or to replace like old?
So the total number of items items on here will include both.
Okay.
I could pull stats for you on our percentage of replacements to new, but I mean, new is definitely going to be the higher number there.
Mm-hmm.
Replacements is generally on an as-needed basis. We run those reports monthly, and if they're available, we basically replace them if it's possible to do so.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just one more question. When the Library IQ platform was first introduced, on it, I guess you'd call it, for me, the cover page, had a webinar that went over relative use and some other things. Is that still accessible?
I'll have to check on that for you.
Okay.
I'm sure I can get access to that so we can share it with our new trustees.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
I had in mind. Thank you.
I'll take a look, yep.
One of the interesting things to note here on this, I don't know which page this is, item 3, the last one, where it breaks out in the table, you know, adult, children, young adult, age by budget and circ. The young adult is like almost half that of the children's, and then, you know, I guess like a third or so of the adult. So do we take a look at that and see, like, obviously we don't have as many young adult books in circulation. Are we assuming that that means that our teens or tweens are going to adult books, or do we just not have as much demand from that age group?
I think it's a little of everything. You've got some teens that are reading lower, so they're going to be in the J fiction section. You have some that are reading higher, that'll be an adult. We actually have a fair amount of adults that read teen, which is great. We're constantly looking at best of lists and ordering to the needs. Manga is actually, like, graphic novels for teens, I think is our #1 circing, it has been for years, has been our #1 circing collection in the library. So I think it's more an aspect of kind of percentage of the population, what's actually published. More adult and kids books are published than teen books, so there's that as well to take into consideration. But the actual nuts and bolts, I would have to consult with our HQ folks to find out.
Okay, interesting. All right. If nothing else, then we'll move on to the new library discussion. John, did you want to brief anything regarding our meeting yesterday with the city manager? I can talk to it. I can talk to it.
Okay, and if you've left anything out, I'll just
Okay, great.
add some color.
Sure. So Yesterday, John and I and Jack Anderson, who is the president of the foundation, Library Foundation, went and talked to Sean McGlynn, Joanna Axelrod, and Jennifer Shinnick, who is the economic development manager. Deputy. Oh, okay, great. Okay, Deputy Director of Economic Development. And when we had originated the meeting, we had wanted to discuss next steps for the library, the new library discussion. And so Jack, John, and I met and discussed, what kind of agenda we would bring up and everything. And when we got in there, I think that the meeting kind of took a turn. Not in a bad way, but just in a very honest way, which I was very appreciative of. So based off of the City Council meeting from last night, I think that what was discussed was that we're looking at a very dire circumstance with regard to our funding from a budget perspective for the city. And one of the things that Sean told us is that it's going to be very difficult to have the city pursue or help with developing a new library while we have almost like a $10 million shortfall where we become insolvent in the 2031 timeframe.
That's an annual shortfall, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that council is going to be doing in the near future is getting together to determine how we move forward. I think my takeaway from the meeting was that we would all be better served in the discussion of a new library if there is a grassroots approach to securing funding. And I think what that means or what that looks like is a citizens initiative that could potentially help bridge the budget shortfall, which would likely mean something on the ballot that would be a tax revenue increase or something similar. And one of the things that Sean did say is that he's willing to come out and talk to us about what that looks like from an educational perspective, like just to educate us on like how that works or what options there are. And then it would be really up to us, as well as other commissions, to determine how we want to move forward. So I think that that's what I took away from it. One of the things I did ask him for after the meeting were examples of where citizens initiatives have been successful in the past, and then maybe we take a look at that and see what we can do. And I don't think that this is like, oh, give us $30 million to build a new library. I think it's what can we do now to raise revenue to help the city pay its bills, and then allow for future investment. So I think it's going to be a very long haul, but I think we have a good place to start.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. I would add that I felt encouraged by the fact that Sean McGlynn, the city manager, is really willing to work with us and can help us find some funds. We don't really need any right now because what we need to do is build community support for what we're trying to do. We need to flesh out the new library committee, and that could take a while, but we're looking at a process that's probably 7 years.
Yep. Or more.
Or more. So we just need to stay focused and continue to take one step at a time, and when the time is right, after the city is able to have a plan to get their head above water, which might take a couple of years for that. Even if they get a plan tomorrow, it'll take a couple of years to get back to at least break even. And we'll take what steps we can take and try to accomplish the goal of getting people interested and behind a new library and making them aware of the city's actual financial situation, and hopefully approve a tax increase of some type in the next year or two. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I do, mainly because I'm kind of green on the subject.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think, so if I understand correctly, there's money allotted for remodeling as well. Is that still on the table?
Oh, yeah, that's a state grant that we already have, and it can be spent for no other purpose except remodeling the library. So that project will go forward.
That project will still go forward?
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
The other thing I think to note, and I think what came out of last night's meeting was that I think they did show library services being potentially subject to cuts. So that's something we should think about as well. And I think that in the meeting, there were a lot of ideas that were flung around. I think that having the committee established to talk about the future library is probably something we want to do relatively quickly so that we can start doling things out to people and understanding where we need to go. The problem with that is that, because of the Brown Act, we can only have 2 board members on the committee at one time. So I think what we should likely do is brainstorm over the next month how we think that's going to work. Because I'm sure, everybody wants to be involved. And we want to make sure that everyone who wants to be involved can be involved and uses their strengths in the appropriate way. So I would like to put on the agenda for next month kind of our ideas of how the board can be involved and how our reporting back and forth is going to go. And then that way we can start assigning folks. Maybe it's a rotation of some sort, or we establish, subcommittees within the overall committee for fundraising or community outreach, involvement, stuff like that. So I think we have quite a diverse and expertise-full board. So I'm looking forward to everybody's input there.
Questions. John, you said we already have the grant. You mean we are approved for the grant, but we haven't received the funding yet, right?
I don't know where I do not know the status of the funding, but we were approved last year.
I just didn't know if you guys covered it in yesterday's meeting at all.
No.
No.
I can take this one. So the critical infrastructure grant is $10 million. It is only to cover critical infrastructure to the library, which we outlined in the grant, which is the HVAC, the roof, new lighting, and ADA compliance to the bathrooms downstairs. There's a couple other things, but right now the city is in the process of hiring a project manager. They're just working on the final details of that. Once that project manager is on board, they'll be able to start figuring out the order of operations, because I believe grant funds must be spent by 2026. And I think we've gotten the first disbursement.
And then wasn't there going to be money on top of that 10 million that was going to be needed?
No.
No?
We got that waived.
Yeah, there's no in-kind from the city, yeah.
Okay, good, awesome. And other question. Escaped me. That'll come to me in a minute.
Okay. Anything else?
We're not, I know we're going to have the meeting next month, but it doesn't hurt to just go through your network and let everybody know we're looking to form a committee for a new library. And I need to set up a meeting. I talked to a previous mayor, I think she's like 3 or 4 mayors ago.
Huh.
And just to get her ideas of who might be a good person on the committee.
Yeah, and I wonder if that would be a good question to go through Zach to the council members as well, the other council members who they would recommend to be on the committee. I know that when we were establishing our strategic planning committee, Joanna had made the comment, like, if you're you're gonna go out to one of the council members, you wanna go out to all, so nobody feels, snubbed. So that's a good recommend. I think we'll ask Zach to reach out, if that's okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Anything else? All right, sorry, did you? Okay, okay. All right.
Nothing else.
Wonderful. Then moving on to officer election. So I'll start off by because Francis is new, and it's unfortunate that Maribel's not here, but I'll kind of talk through each of the roles. So we have 2 officers on the board. One is the president. That's the role I serve now. This is my 2nd year doing it. Prior to that, John was president. And the main function of the president is just to lead this meeting, be the outward-facing spokesperson for the board when you go to the city council or the library in general. Then I sign all the minutes. So after we pass the minutes, they come to me on digital signature, I sign and save it and bless them. The secretary, which is the 2nd officer position, that's what Virginia holds right now, is kind of a deputy when, the president cannot be here. So she would assume everything if I wasn't able to make it to a meeting or sign or a different event. So with that, I'm open to hearing what people are thinking for the president and secretary role.
Up to you guys who you would like to know. Not yet.
I got it. Yeah. We know. Yeah.
I would say just keep it as is, but.
Okay. So I think, I've done it quite a bit. I would love to open up and make room for somebody else to hold this seat. I think it would be beneficial to have someone new as the secretary, just so that they can kind of see how it works. I mean, it's a lot less, I think, of a commitment time-wise. But again, we can move forward from there. If nobody wants to do it, then we can pick somebody from the incumbents, right? So I think Virginia would be great as president, and I would love to offer you the chance to do this role. Is that something that you would be interested in? Okay, great.
I would second that nomination.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, and then for secretary, are we allowed to nominate someone who isn't here?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna do
Part
it.
of the group and.
Francis, would you be interested in being secretary? Or do you want to just observe for your first year, or?
I'm happy to help in any way possible.
Okay.
Yeah. But if Maribel was interested, I would vote for her.
Well, I'll make the motion to nominate Francis for the secretary position.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great. Okay, so now it's Virginia and Francis. Great.
Okay, and then what'll happen now is I will update the website when I get back to the library to reflect that, and I will connect Francis's email to the secretary email and Virginia's to the president email. Might take a couple days to go through, so if you still receive things, please just forward them to Virginia.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
We'll do.
That's a real good idea.
Yeah, I remember. I was going to say something else. Oh, Francis, were you able to give a bio to Katie for the library website?
I have not yet, but I'll do that after.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
There's no rush on that, but yeah, bios and photos would be great.
Okay.
Caroline?
Yeah.
Sorry, when we close this item, I remember my question from the.
Okay. Okay, why don't you ask your question?
I think you mentioned, or maybe it was John mentioned, that they, at the city council meeting, they talked about LSNS cuts.
Not LSNS specifically, but the library in general. So it was, and I didn't watch, I just know this based off of what they told me in the meeting. So I have every intention of tonight going and watching the whole thing, because I think it was very, I don't know, from what they were anticipating, it wasn't going to be a
Yeah, what the gist I got from Sean yesterday, that it would take probably through October to be able to figure out what is acceptable to council, et cetera, to figure out what they're going to do.
From my perspective, right, and I mean, just because I deal with contracts daily, I would find it hard for them to cut LSNS because of the 10-year contract that we have. But I mean, we had that negotiation through COVID to reduce, so I don't know. But it is on the list of all the things that could be potentially looked at for reductions.
Right, thank you for,
Yeah.
I would point out that he actually mentioned that the people involved in any type of service, including two of the city people in the room, would also, in long term, we can't afford the services we're giving. Why do we need all these people? So,
Right.
you,
I think too, the LSNS contract is up in when, 2028?
I think it's 27.
I believe we signed it in January 2018. It went into effect. So I believe it would probably end in December 2017.
Yeah.
2027.
2027. I'm so sorry. Stuck on 27.
Well, and if you'll read the contract carefully, there is no termination clause.
Right.
So, good luck.
Right, so I think that that's a lot for us to think about, right? So especially with them trying to identify out to 2031 what can be cut, understanding that in 2027 the contract is up, it could be potentially that they don't extend all of the terms of the contract in that time frame. So, yeah. Okay, great. Moving on. Okay, community awareness of EPL's resources. All right, so John, did you want to?
Yes, I was watching the interviews for Maribel and Francis, and he brought up the fact that it didn't appear that that what was available at the library was as widely known in the community as it should be. And I go back to, I sat through like 7 of the 10 focus groups we had during the strategic plan, usually virtually not there physically, just as an observer. And time after time, first it was just with general populace, saying, why doesn't the library do this? Well, they already do that. And why don't they offer this? Well, they already do. And then we got into some nonprofit groups at one of the focus groups that Maribel set up. And we had counselors and people that help students and other people with various problems, including tutoring, education, etc. And they started saying, why doesn't the library do this and why doesn't the library do that? And we already do. So I was an observer. I didn't want to get involved in the process. But it was just frustrating to hear that the people who could really make a difference knowing what the library has available didn't have a clue. Maybe that's a strong word to use. They didn't have a complete understanding of everything that was available. So I believe I talked to Dara about that as we were finishing the plan. It's not something that made sense to be put in the plan since it wasn't, it was just my observations. I was there to manage the process, not to try to interject my thoughts. But I'm thinking it would be useful to set up a subcommittee with a trustee or two, sources from EPL, maybe elsewhere in the city. I don't know what they have as far as social media, whatever, and anybody else we think that might be useful, and just see what's going on and see what could be done to get the word out, so to speak.
I can add a little here. So we do have a pretty robust social media presence. And our people who do follow us tend to know, but it's always that trying to get the word out to people who don't know, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And that's the hardest thing everyone has difficulty with, and it's kind of across the board. We do work with the city of Escondido's marketing and communications department, and they cross-promote a lot of our events in city newsletters, on their social media as well. It is, again, it's one of those things that's very tricky because like we put so much into the marketing and the news releases and getting the word out to still have people who don't know. I would say at this point, I can't really speak to what the city or the library would be able to do in assistance because Dara's not here and that's her call. So I'll have to leave that for the next meeting. But as far as you creating a subcommittee, I mean, we'd love to get the word out. We'd love to have more people know what we do.
Obviously staff has to be part of the process and has to buy into whatever the committee comes up with. So I don't know who beyond, let's say 2 trustees and EPL staff would be useful on such a committee. Maybe we could just establish the committee and let them figure it out. If they need to add some other folks, they can do that. And just give us maybe whatever they think is appropriate, monthly or bi-monthly updates on what's going on, how they're coming. And, I wouldn't expect this to be saucered, blown, and done in a month. It might take a lot longer than that. There might be some research that needs to be done. I have no idea.
Yeah, as far as staff commitment, again,
I understand.
Yeah, you spoke to Joanna yesterday, and knowing that the city is extremely underwater in staffing, they have a lot of turnover. We're just gearing up for summer reading as our busiest time of year. I think it's a great idea. I definitely think it's something that needs to be done, but again, I can't commit us at this point.
And just for some context on why I brought it up initially, I was researching to be a trustee, and I just noticed with events, it was harder to find compared to other cities. So maybe just knowing like what the site traffic is for the landing page.
So Francis, I understand you have an IT background?
Just on the tech side, but no, not with IT.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's something too we're working on. My understanding is that we will be getting a new website in the near future, and that will help immensely because things that are kind of part of the regular UX that we are kind of taking for granted are not necessarily present as our system is on the older side. So I'm hoping that will just kind of, part of that will solve itself once that goes through. Our calendaring system is a third party, so it's not integrated into the website, and that is something I'm looking for the new website to do, is find an integration so events are front and center on the page. Something I want. I'm the tech person at the library, so I've been kind of the person that works on the website and marketing and stuff, so I appreciate that feedback. That's definitely something I'm aware of, and I appreciate that is difficult to find, so thank you.
No, and it's cool that we're considering getting a new website. I totally understand with the third-party calendar system and how that could be difficult to work with.
I'll just add a few comments because I feel the same way. I feel like a lot of people don't know what is available. And then I had brought it up in the past too, that I don't feel like we have a good social media presence in regards to the younger generation, because you guys do a lot of posts on Facebook, but anyone under 20 is not on Facebook anymore. And I think the LinkedIn is a little bit slow as well. But I think that you guys get the most traffic on Facebook, but again, it's not very many likes. The events are always updated there, which is great. And if, some kind of challenge could be incorporated, like I see a lot of, businesses say like, share, and you get this gift certificate, or like, share, and tag someone. And so we could definitely increase awareness there. But I also feel like there's not and I know that the library in the city has bigger priorities, but I do feel like this is important, just for it to be somewhere where somebody is concentrating on how we can increase this for the future. And I do, especially for the younger generation, I really want to get them connected and get them involved in what's in their community to be aware of, and that's TikTok. That's what they're going to be on, and I know you guys don't have anybody to man that right now, but also in talking to the city about just doing a shout out for the library staff for Library Appreciation Week. It was like you have to, they have a year-long process of like what they're gonna send out for the whole year, and you can't just insert something in between. So it's like we have to get on their agenda to talk about it like a year in advance. So it's been a very difficult process. So I feel like it's something that we do need to look at and have a plan to improve on.
Thank you, Virginia. I appreciate your feedback. Yeah, we know Facebook tends to be our number one because some of our, especially our history room users, really enjoy it. Our Instagram is also somewhat popular, and I do know like that's now trending upward age-wise. We have had discussions about creating a TikTok, but again, it's one of those things that it's all video, and video takes a lot more time and effort, and you want to keep it updated, right? We try and post on all of our platforms at least once or twice a week, if not more. But TikTok, you really want at least daily posts, and having someone I can dedicate to doing videos every day is a struggle. So any kind of advice or help I can get would be great for that.
Don't you have a summer intern or interns that you usually have?
We have interns for literacy program. We have summer volunteers, and they do assist with the summer reading challenge.
Could they help with social media, creating posts, and like just creating the content and then handing it off to you to post it?
That is something I can take a look at.
One of the things that we could do too is do like a social media grant where we could pay, you know, someone through the trust, right? The trustees budget, like a $3,000 grant for 3 months for a social media intern or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that we as the board could do. Obviously, it would be up to Katie and her team to pick the individual, but then it gets kind of as the presence, and then the staff doesn't have to be so worried about creating content on a daily basis. I will say Milwaukee Public Library has a phenomenal TikTok and Instagram. It is amazing. I follow them, but
Not.
I know, right? I know. No, they have. It's great. But yeah, I mean, I think that if that's something you guys would be interested in, I don't know how the whole employment thing works, like supervising or whatever, but it's something I would be interested as a trustee in voting for in the future.
Cool. Yeah, definitely gonna need to speak with Dara, obviously, and figure out how that would work and what that system would look like, but I really appreciate it. So maybe we can put that on the agenda for next month.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, these are all really good ideas that have come up kind of spontaneously here. So how do we want to proceed? Do we want to go ahead and see if anybody wants to volunteer to be on a subcommittee from the trustees, and then you guys could just take it from there? Okay.
Talk to Dara first. Okay. Yeah, I think maybe next month, John, we can vote on, or I don't know if we need to vote, but we can take interest in for the Community Awareness Committee and then the new library committee.
Okay.
All right. And then, Francis, I'm very sorry. I never allowed you or brought up do you want to introduce yourself, please, and what your background is and everything like that? I should have done that first. I totally forgot. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. But my name is Francis Bova. I've lived in Escondido for, I think, about almost 8 to 10 years now. I'm somewhere in that range. I'm a homeowner in Old Escondido. Have a wife and 2 kids. I've been in the tech industry for more than a decade. I'm working on trust and safety issues, customer support issues, and continue to do that. I'm currently with a startup. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Just really love Escondido and hope to see it reach its prime, or however you want to say it. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, and before I moved to Escondido, I lived in Chicago for a few years.
So if I can ask, what are you looking forward to most about being on the board?
I just love the library, to be honest. I think for me, it's just seeing the library continue to do its thing, and for me, being on the board, I just want to be a representative for the community. That's all I really see.
Great, well, thank you. We're excited to have you. Okay, moving on to the monthly stats and the director's report, right?
I apologize. When I put this together, I was missing a couple of stats that I do have. They will be appearing under the April column on the next month. So sometimes my Flipster stats get in very late. Anyway, stats are pretty steady. Our Link Plus still continues to be very popular. April, we did see kind of a decrease in some things, but I just finished the May stats, so I know that they've kind of gone back up, and then June will be leaps and bounds because it's summer reading and there's kids out, so we have a lot more happening. Our number of programs has gone down a tiny bit from March, but is still higher than February. Our catalog visits and web visits are down a little bit. Wireless is about the same. So it feels like March we had a little bit of a peak, but April kind of went back down to where February was at. And I'm wondering if it's because it was kind of that middle of the spring before school's out. But yeah, so we're still doing pretty good. We still continue to see increased attendance at all of our programs, and we are offering more programs, which is great. And our CIRC is maintaining that kind of 32 to 36,000 a month average. I think May is actually 40,000. Yeah. So, yeah, stats are pretty good.
Can I ask one question? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I noticed this before, but with April 2023, under users of public internet computers, it's down probably more than 50%.
Yeah, so that actually I have a great answer for, which is that we upgraded half of our PCs in April, and so they were unavailable for use. So that is having to do with inability to use them while we were doing that upgrade.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. Getting prepped for Windows 11.
Nice.
Yeah. Any questions?
Francis, are you up to speed on what Link Plus is?
I am not, no.
Okay, so Link Plus is an interlibrary loan system that we have through the SARA Consortium. So we're part of the SARA Cooperative, which is a cooperative of libraries in San Diego and Imperial counties. And as a cooperative, we have pooled funds for certain things. So our e-magazines and a core collection of our ebooks are through that cooperative. And then Link Plus is a consortium of libraries throughout California and a little of Nevada. I believe there are 74 participating libraries that do interlibrary loans, lending for free, which is great because otherwise they cost $5 a request. So we actually maintain both systems because there are some items that are not available through our Link Plus, mainly more academic texts. But yeah, it's been great. And we have a courier that comes every day, Monday through Friday. So if you put an item that we don't have on hold through the Link Plus system, it's usually there within a few days. You still get to borrow it for 21 days. I believe it will renew one time. And yeah, it's been really great. We launched it at the end of October and it's been incredibly popular.
Nice. Thank you.
Moving on to the director's report.
All right, so Mr. John Archer, who is our LA3 in adult services, was given a Historic Preservation Award by the city of Escondido, which was part of National Historic Preservation Month. He has started a lecture series where he gives a lecture on different parts of Old Escondido, the historic buildings, people who live there, and then the following Saturday he gives a walking tour where he kind of walks people around to those buildings, which it's been incredibly popular. And then at the end of that, we usually have a small tour through the Pioneer Room Historical Archive. So we've done the first one. The second one, I believe, is happening in June. So we're hoping to still continue that on an every couple of months basis, focusing on different parts of Escondido that are walkable from the library. But John has been phenomenal, and we are so pleased and excited and proud of him. Also, our other two Pioneer Room employees, Ashley Hayes and April Ruiz, helped with the supporting and collaboration in this successful program. They manned the Pioneer Room, they did the tours for people, they assisted John in some of the photos and all of the descriptions. So they are a wonderful team, and we are just so happy to have them. May 4th is always a huge week for us. We've kind of created a Star Wars week instead of just May the 4th is Star Wars Day. This year, our May the 4th was probably the biggest we've seen, and we are really excited for next year. We had a build your own spaceship, galaxy art nails for teens. The May the 4th Be With You Star Wars Day, Inclusive Art Club had a Star Wars theme, and the Star Wars Week finale, which also occurs on Free Comic Book Day. So all told, we had around 700 people come to the whole week of programs, and each one is broken out in that paragraph of how many came to each. Literacy hosted their annual recognition dinner for their learners on May 18th for the first time since 2019. We had 70 people in attendance, and learners spoke about their stories. It was very inspiring. We are so excited to continue offering great adult literacy services and English as a second language classes through the California grants that we've received. Our team does a great job, and we're really happy to provide that service here in Escondido. Part of our cultural programming, which I totally noticed I missed the strategic plan overview. That will go on to the next month's agenda. I apologize, but one of our pillars in the strategic plan is talking about cultural programming and reaching out to different cultural groups in Escondido, and we did that on May 22nd with our Story of Ukraine program. We hosted an author, Michael Simpson, who was visiting, and he read his book, The Story of Ukraine. We had 30 attendees and started our relationship with the House of Ukraine, and they are going to work with us on some other programs that we're doing as part of the Library Innovation Lab grant. And then other last thing is Summer Reading Challenge. So it starts on Monday. It's for all ages. Please talk to people about it. It's great. We have a lot of programs. We have a lot of fun prizes that we give away. You can participate on the Read Squared app on your phone or your tablet or on the website. We have lots of great sponsors from Escondido and elsewhere that have donated prizes and are going to be helping partner with us for some programs. And all of the funding for the summer reading program is donated by the Friends of the Library, who is one of our great supporters. So I highly recommend on Monday you check out the website. It is live now, but you can't register for anything. But it will have our cool graphics and stuff. Sorry, any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
It's great that there was the culture recognition in Ukraine was highlighted in May, but did we also celebrate Asian American and Pacific Heritage Month in May?
So we do our displays in the lobby, and we always celebrate the Heritage Months on this displays. I know we had one of our latter displays had our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. That is definitely a group we want to do more programming for. So I can definitely write that down for next year as something to look at doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just one question, I guess. The Literacy Department, the annual Learners Recognition Dinner. When I first started as a trustee, were we not invited to that? So we had to pay our own way if we have to, but that was an interesting event.
I will chat with the literacy folks and get you guys on the list for 2024.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I just had one quick question about the Summer Reading Challenge, and that it starts on June 12th, but is there a specific time on June 12th it starts?
Basically, as soon as we get in and activate, so I'm gonna guess probably between 7 and 8 a.m. is when the links will go live. But yeah, no, and then we'll open at 9 a.m. So we'll have our volunteers ready and starting to give out information, brochures, walk people through the program on Monday. So yeah, I mean, you can probably log in. I don't know if they're on a timer. They might honestly just roll over at midnight and start being active. But if it's staff activated, I'd assume between 7:30 and 8 a.m.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, thank you.
Okay, great. One of the things that isn't usually on the agenda, but that we do at the end of each meeting is just go one by one and talk about either your experience, a recent experience with the library, or something pertinent that you wanted to discuss. So I'll start with John.
I don't really have anything this month.
Okay, Virginia.
I was really excited to see the time management workshop that you guys hosted in May, 'cause I need that. So I'm really enjoying the self-improvement workshops the library is offering. Is that going to happen on a monthly basis, quarterly?
So the meditation is monthly. It's just part of that series. It's the first Wednesday of the month. The other elements in the series, such as time management, I think we have another one coming up in September. It really depends on which performance is the wrong word, which lecturers are available and when they're available, but we're trying for quarterly.
Okay, that sounds good. I really like that, I think. Are you getting a lot of attendees for those, since it's like the adult crowd, I think?
I know we've had a pretty consistent 10 to 15 at the meditation, and people really like it and they come like every month, but I don't have the stats yet for our time management.
Okay.
But that'll be on my report next time.
Okay, sounds good. And then just a quick question, because I see other libraries in San Diego offer this. Have you guys discussed doing like college admission workshops, or, because I'm on a board for a local school in Escondido Public School, and I have heard, especially the parents, that English is not their first language. They don't know how to fill out college applications. And so I just wondered if we ever talked about hosting that kind of workshop.
It's a great idea, and I will bring that back to our team and see who we can partner for that. I would imagine that's probably something you're going to want to do in the fall? It's usually the fall before you apply, or is it spring?
No, it's fall.
Yeah.
It's fall, but I think like also workshops earlier than that, so they know what to expect.
Okay.
Like maybe.
And you want to do more, do you want to do FAFSA as well? Like that's the
That's a good
financial
idea.
aid?
Yeah,
Okay.
FAFSA.
Yeah, so maybe like college admission and FAFSA.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Because-
we're talking like end of summer or
I would
late
say end of
spring?
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that somebody from one of the local high schools' AVID programs could tell you all the dates and.
Or even
Yeah,
invite someone from Palomar or
Maricosta,
CSU.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
It's a great idea. Very nice. Francis, you
Oh,
want to go
me,
next?
yes. I went to the Pioneer Room last week. I've been there multiple times in the past, just always a pleasant experience there. And then I went to the library yesterday. We were up in the children's section, took out a couple books for one of my kids. And then when we were leaving the children's section, there was therapy dogs, and it looked very relaxing, and there was a waiting list to get in, so we couldn't participate, but I think anyone that was participating was getting the most out of that, so that was really cool to see. And then last night I downloaded the Hoopla app, so maybe next month I'll come back with a book report.
Sounds good. Yeah, the Pause to Reading, that's run by volunteers from Love on a Leash, which is a local 501c3. And all those dogs are trained like to be like read to, and they're just, we've loved that program. We've had it for years, and the kids just absolutely love it. We also have Read to a Dragon. So if you're not into the cuddly folk, you can read to Bearded Lizards from Eco Vivarium. They come usually once a month as well. I think we usually have Love on a Leash come on Wednesdays, and we have Eco Vivarium on Thursdays. So keep an eye on our calendar. That's awesome.
something did come up. I subscribe to a financial publication called Barron's, and every year when my first year expires, which is usually at a reasonable rate, they triple the price. And every year I tell them to pound sand, cancel it, and I come to the library and read it for the next month. Okay, I just come every week and read it. And they always have several back issues of it. If I miss a week or two. And then Barron's, after a month or two, will send me something, hey, we want you back, how about this special deal? And I get the subscription at a good price. So I'm in that process now again. And Ecovivarium, that I found an injured gopher snake on my property 3 weeks ago, and didn't know what to do with it, because we knew if we took it down to the park and let it go, it'd just get killed. So called them up, they said, yeah, bring it in. So they actually take in injured snakes. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, so my story is, like I've mentioned before, every time I travel to a new city, I go to their library. And so the new city I traveled to in May was Kerrville, Texas, which is a small town outside of San Antonio. It also happens to be where my parents now live. So they moved 2 years ago. This was my first visit. And I went in and I talked to there was an author's talk that we went to, and then we also visited the bookstore. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a cute little retirement community, so there's a lot of, you know, older folks and super passionate about the library, and it was just very nice to see. And then, yeah, I can't recommend Milwaukee Public Library enough. They have very great social media presence.
How in the world did you find out about the Milwaukee Library?
I think my algorithm is just, yeah. There's yes, exactly. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Great. All right. Well, with that, I will adjourn our June 8th meeting of the Escondido Library Board of Trustees. And next time, Virginia will be here doing this. Yay.